Welcome to episode number 4 of Find Your Success. Dang, these episodes have been awesome so far, and today we have another amazing guest, Coach Ray Yee. We have Coach Ray Yee today, and he is the owner of ABQ Kickboxing. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Dustin. It's an honor being a part of the episode 4, so I'm looking forward to hearing more from you guys.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you taking some time out of your day and hanging out with us. And you've already shared some pretty cool stories. Jonathan has shared some pretty cool stuff about you. And,
cool, man.
From what I've heard, you're highly talked about. A man of good character, and that's exactly the type of people that we're looking to connect with. So just thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's definitely been a blessing to have a good reputation after all these years, and be able to share my knowledge and mentor some of the best fighters in the world, and then also some of the best doctors, lawyers, actors, actresses, soccer dads, soccer moms, in the 505.
Dang, that's awesome. Where are you from?
Originally born and raised in Portland, Oregon. My family, my mom and dad moved there. They were escaping the communist takeover of China, and so my father had moved there first, and then my mother later on, and then after they got married, and then I was born there, and then lived there for a long time. Yeah, born and raised in the U.S. For sure, and then lived there all the way up until I was about 20, and then moved up to Washington State.
And so that's where you picked up.
Actually, no. So being born in the United States, my parents, kind of believed that I was getting, lack of better terms, they joked around with their friends saying I was getting too whitewashed. Which again, one of their biggest things was they wanted me to assimilate. They wanted me to be an American. They wanted me to take advantage of all the opportunities that this amazing country has to offer. But they also felt like I was kind of, shying away from, my Asian roots. So in 1980, I was sent overseas. My mother's side of the family, my uncle, my grandfather, and we had a bunch of relatives in Hong Kong, which was at the time, still a British colony. Yeah. Went over there and started, they wanted me to, kind of just dive into, the Asian culture. And so, I was immersed in, the food, the language, and then martial arts, of course. My uncle was one of my first martial arts instructors. He taught a martial arts system called Wing Chun.
In Hong Kong?
Yeah, in Hong Kong. A lot of people know Wing Chun is kind of like Bruce Lee style, his original style, and also the movie Ip Man with Donnie Yen has really, really, brought a lot of attention to Wing Chun. So that was actually my first style. And then my grandfather was a Tai Chi instructor, so, which I didn't gravitate quite towards because at the time I just wanted to learn how to fight and, be like Bruce Lee and, be like Batman and Robin, and so the fighting element of stuff really, really, drew my attention. And so subsequently each summer I was able to go kind of follow my uncle around because he did a lot of business abroad. So the following summer I went to, Japan, spent some time in Japan for that summer, went to Thailand the following year, went to the Philippines the following year, went to Singapore the following year, and Taiwan that same year. So, I got to wherever my uncle was doing business was kind of where I spent my time. And he had a lot of colleagues and friends that were martial artists. So, I always knew him as, got introduced to him as my uncles, because, in most, cultures, your father, your uncle's friends were all just uncles, so. Yeah, so I got to get introduced to a lot of really cool martial arts. And then when I came back to the States, I would try to find whatever, program, after school program there was, or, whatever, special deal was at whether it was a, karate school or like a taekwondo school or a kung fu school or whatever, that my parents could afford, or like sometimes, my dad would have, again, friends, uncles that that taught martial arts, and I would, go clean their floors and, wipe down their mirrors and put away stuff and get to train. And
I love that. So that was part of the deal.
Yeah, which today I still, my any coach that comes up through me and goes through an internship. And so they start off with essentially, folding towels, cleaning the gym, they show initiative and they show promise. And, I usually put them through the second level, which is starting to work with, beginners and starting to help me demonstrate in class. And then eventually I give them, part of the class to teach, and then once they've done good at that, then, I bump them up to assistant coach. And then, finally, coach level, and then, eventually an instructor level. So there's a definite process. It's funny, I get a lot of people that go, they hit me up and want a job, coaching. And they go, oh, yeah, I've coached at this place or this place. I'm like, well, that's great. But I bring everybody up from the ground up. I think that it's better in the long run because you see what somebody's, ethics are. You see what their, standards are and whether they have respect.
Yeah.
And discipline. Those are the things that I think make a good employee or a good martial arts instructor.
I love that. I think that's such a cool point, and something that you did yourself was to go in and exchange your services in exchange for something else, in exchange for access, proximity.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. And I hope that whoever's listening out there picks up on that, especially the young people. Yeah. Anyone. To go out there and do the simple things like holding doors open, shaking hands and looking the person in the eye.
Yep.
Cleaning the mats, doing the towels, without necessarily having to be asked, but participating.
Right. Be a part of the community. Be a part of absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think that is very cool. That's something you did yourself, and that you incorporate that framework into what you do, into giving others opportunities. So I think that is a big takeaway.
Well, I like to think that, with, a lot of, coming through a lot of different martial arts systems and a lot of different martial arts instructors, I think I was able to, kind of pick and choose like the things I really liked that I thought built good character, that I thought were really instrumental in my development. And I'm trying to pass it on to the next generation, which, I think when you talk to a lot of business owners, they try to do the same thing. They try to mentor people. The next generation, they try to, give them kind of the tools for success, but they make them work for it. And I think that's something that we're lacking a lot of in the last couple of generations. People, just expect to get paid, $50,000, $60,000 just to start off, or expect that they're gonna get the best jobs, even though they have zero work experience, zero work ethics,
To add to that, they undervalue, in my opinion, the relationships.
Absolutely.
Like being a friend to somebody, how incredibly powerful that can be when you combine it with all of the other things, right? Combine it with your experience and your skill sets and your love and your passion for doing things.
100%. Yeah, I think just being personable is something that's so important. And yet another kind of skill set that I learned, from, one of my first jobs that I got when I was first out of high school. I was... it's funny, it's like you see me now and, clean cut and, shaved head and everything. But at one point, when I first got out of high school, I had hair down to my butt. I was into, metal bands and rock bands. And I worked for a company called Tower Records,
Really?
Which they're not around anymore, but it's kind of a legendary, record company and record store. And, one of the things that, my first boss, Ed, told me was, he said, Ray, being that you look a little bit different than, what's society's norm, it's like you're going to have to go that extra mile. You're going to have to make sure that you're extra personable, you're extra attentive, and that you're approachable, So in that first job, I remember, like, what was cool was, I ran the video store, so... everybody's profile would pop up and, I'd be checking out your movies or something and I'd see your name, it's Dustin, and go, hey, Dustin, hey, have you seen this other movie, or, how was your Christmas, how are the kids? So from a very early age, I started kind of associating and having those relationships with people and going, okay, what's Dustin do for a living? Does he have family? What kind of movies does he like? how come I only see him on Fridays? How come I don't see him on Mondays? So those things I think developed into, who I am as a business owner and somebody that does business, is that I still to this day, I know all my members by first name. I know probably 90 to 95% of their kids and spouses' names. I know, what they've done, like sports wise, when they're, were in high school. I know what kind of food they like. I mean, what kind of beer they drink. And it's not that I'm trying to pry. I'm trying to understand where the person is coming from. And I think that really, really resonates to a person, because the old saying about like that TV show Cheers, right? Everybody wants to go where they know your name, right? So I think having those relationships, people are much more inclined to keep doing business with somebody that they like, that they genuinely like, right? And they feel like they're not just out making a buck off them. They honestly care about what your goals are. They honestly care about hey, how come I haven't seen you in a week? Oh man, you had an ear infection, man. You okay, man? Is there anything I can do for you? I mean, those things are, I think, are invaluable. Which I think, if I had to tell, somebody that was trying to get into a business, I think that would be one of the biggest things that I would recommend is, get out of that comfort zone. Even if you're not much of a, outgoing person, have that persona. You can go home and not speak to anybody and just play video games or be, a reclusive person. But if you want to have a successful business, you have to have that flip side. You have to have that, shaking hands, kissing babies, kind of persona. And you have to be able to sympathize with people and understand, what their needs are. And, in most business, you're providing a service, And so you have to understand what kind of services a person needs. You don't want to, sort of proverbially sell somebody a BMW when they can only afford a Toyota Camry. If somebody, has a back injury, you don't want to have them, doing, powerlifting, right? It's not going to be really conducive. So you have to understand what people's needs are. Is this person only coming to you certain times because he has a demanding job? Maybe he's an attorney, maybe he's a doctor, maybe he's a, somebody that works graveyards. Maybe he or she's in law enforcement or first responder. Maybe they have, family of, 4 or 5, and they have, little Johnny's soccer practice and, little Jane's ballet practice, and they got to run around. Maybe that's why they have to be late every time to class or whatever. So I need to, as a business owner, and other business owners should have the flexibility and going, okay, I understand this person's needs. I understand what they're all about, and understand it's nothing personal. This is just who they are and what they're bringing to the table as far as, being a customer, and ultimately as a friend, because that's what you want, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan, great clips. Honestly, I think that was a lot of great advice in many ways.
Thank you, man.
And coming from the perspective of caring and loving for people and providing a service that benefits them, doesn't just benefit ourselves.
Right.
Which,
right.
Who would have thought that would be a great way to do business, right? But there's so many people around us who are thinking about serving themselves first and wonder why they have so many issues.
Exactly.
But being naturally curious about who the people are that are coming into your space, loving on them, treating them well, getting to know them, treating them as friends, suddenly translates to this exponential growth that some people think is a mystery.
Right.
But it really isn't. It starts off with taking care of the people around you.
Yeah, and that turns into the networking that everybody wants to do, right? Mm-hmm. That turns into better advertising than any medium could do. And being that this year was my 21st year of having a gym in New Mexico, in Albuquerque.
Congratulations.
And thank you. I get hit up all the time. Like literally, my phone rings so much, and it's other people trying to sell me stuff. And most of the time I don't answer it. I just tell people to text me, and I actually literally have a message that says, leave a voicemail or text me. Chances of me picking up the phone is probably pretty slim. But the deal is like, a lot of these companies want me to, buy advertising time with them. But there's nothing that will replace the word of mouth, and good word of mouth.
Good, yeah.
Right? Having a good reputation is one of the things that I think people overlook. I mean, sure, we're in the time where like, oh, I want to have good Yelp reviews or good Google reviews,
or Instagram followers.
But they'll come.
Yeah.
Those things will come. People, you shouldn't need to ask for it. If you do A, B, and C, D is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. You don't need to send out mailers to everybody. You don't need to, do cold calls. All you need to do is have a good enough reputation where somebody will tell their friends and their family members about you.
Yeah.
And that's worth every single potential penny that you could spend in advertising, and it's free. As long as you do what you're supposed to do, it's free. But just remember, how many times have you gone to a restaurant and you've gotten bad service? Mm-hmm. How many people do you tell about that restaurant? As soon as you hear that name, you're like, oh, don't go there. It's the worst place ever. Yeah. But if you have good service somewhere, you're like, oh man, these guys went above and beyond, man. I was waiting for my car. They came out. They asked me for an espresso. They gave me an espresso. They gave me a croissant. Whatever the situation is, they showed me the part that was wrong with my vehicle. They didn't try and upsell me. I mean, those are the things that I think has kind of been lost in business. Everybody's so worried about making that money that the relationships, like we were just talking about, isn't being built.
Yeah, dang, that was so good. I really enjoyed this part of our conversation, and I think
I'm enjoying it too.
Yeah, good, I'm glad, and I hope others really tune in and listen to this part over and over again, because there's a ton of gold there, and it's so simple.
Yeah,
right. It really is simple. Maybe not necessarily easy to treat people well, but simple to love others, treat them well, and trust that it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Right? Put good out in the world and trust that it'll come back.
It's going to come back in tenfolds.
It will.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah, very clearly you've experienced that, and I could say that I've experienced that. Jonathan has experienced that too. So that's so cool that we got to talk about that specifically today, regardless of what you're doing. Really, regardless
of what field you're in.
Yeah.
And then, the final probably tidbit of information or gem I would drop is never, never overpromise. I'd much rather over-deliver than to promise somebody something I can't do for them or do properly, right? I mean, take for instance in what I do now as far as like, teaching Muay Thai, teaching boxing, teaching, Filipino martial arts, doing private lessons. I retired from the MMA side of things. And so I get a lot of, young bucks and, people that come to me asking, hey coach, I see you used to train, Cowboy Cerrone. I see you used to train, Claudia Gadella or whatever. Can you train me for fighting? And I'm like, I'd love to do it, but you've kind of caught me at the wrong time in my life. That part of my life is over. But, I'll refer them to people. I'll go, hey, see my buddy John Dotson over at United Fit. He's fantastic. I've worked with him in a couple of camps. Super good guy, great human being, knows the game. Go see him. Somebody wants boxing. I'll go, pure specific boxing, which I love. But again, I have a Muay Thai gym that has boxing in it, but I'm not a pure boxing gym. I'll go, hey, go see my friend Joe Blake, over at Elevation Boxing. Great guy. Him and his wife Amber have a great program. I will refer people to the right people.
Yeah.
Or somebody wants jiu-jitsu. I'm not teaching jiu-jitsu right now, I haven't for a while. And so like I will refer them to my colleagues that are really great in that game, and I'll go, hey, go see the guys at Darkhaven. Go see the guys at 10th Planet. Go see the guys at One Jiu-Jitsu. They're all good guys. I know them. They're my colleagues and my homies. Go see these guys. They'll take care of you. But if that's what you want, I don't want to pretend that I do it and do a half-ass job doing it. When my heart's not in it anymore, Dang,
yeah. Well, you know what you want. You know who you are.
Absolutely.
And, well, you're in a position, I think everyone is in this position, but not everyone may believe this, but you're in a position to support the other leaders around you by driving business referrals to them and seeing their program flourish and seeing, the things that they are passionate about, allowing them to do what they do best at. And the thing that you're not necessarily the most passionate about, being willing to let that go, which I feel like a lot of people in business or in the relationship space are afraid. They're afraid of letting go of the things that have come, right? There's I forget the lost version bias, but letting go of what they have. But in reality, if they gave it away, if they trusted the people around them, gave other people opportunities and led in that way, they would get more referrals. They would gain more authority in the space. Because now even those people who come to you, they're like, wow, he still helped me. He referred me to someone who was amazing. And now you're in a great position. You've only done more goodwill.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's key. That's
absolutely. Awesome. And I think that's the case for what, no matter what, whether it's a restaurant business, or a gym or a truck outfitter. I think as long as you do what's in your wheelhouse and you do it really, really good, and you take care of people, I think that's the recipe for success for sure.
Dang, yeah, that's a lot of good stuff. It makes me even more thankful that you spent some time with us today. Seriously,
heck yeah, man.
Seriously, because you touched on a lot of this, but what would you say were the primary things that have made you successful up to this point? If there's anything that's missing, because we did talk about a lot of things that drove that, but is there anything else that would stand out?
I think tenaciousness is like probably the thing that I haven't really touched upon. Is like, don't be afraid to fail. I mean, take those risks. I mean, as long as you can afford to do it, right? I mean, I don't mean by taking crazy risks, but I mean explore options. Be flexible in your what you charge for something. Don't undersell yourself, and don't slit yourself at the throat, so to speak. But make sure that you're flexible enough where you can try out something and go, hey, I've never done, for instance, giveaway months, on a membership before. And I just did one for Black Friday. I did, buy a year and get 3 months free, or buy, 18 months and get 6 months free, so, being comfortable enough to try something. And if it doesn't work, don't do it again.
Yeah.
Or try it at a different time and just repackage it. But I think, a lot of businesses are afraid to work out of the box that they've kind of painted themselves into. And I don't mean by just going all out crazy, right? I mean, perhaps it's a menu, just 3 or 4 items on your menu you change up for the holidays or something, just to see if they go. And they don't. What's a big deal? Yeah. As long as you still have your staples, you're good, So I think, being flexible in that and trying different things. Like, I think me alongside a lot of, gym owners during, the crazy zombie apocalypse of 220, I think we all tried, doing, Zoom classes and stuff. They don't work. Especially in what I do, right? I mean, especially if the person doesn't have a bag at home and they're just punching the air. Essentially, you're trying to sell them, a Billy Blanks workout. Which again, the man made a ton of money and was very successful with it, but it's just like, it's not what people are asking for now. Yeah. So like, that was something I think myself and a lot of business owners tried, as far as gym owners, to try to capture that type of, clientele during that weird time in our lives where people weren't going out and they were staying at home, but like, just didn't work for me, So instead, I pivoted and I started doing more private lessons, and that has been tremendously successful for me. So, I think just getting out of the comfort zone and trying some new things and don't be afraid to fail, I think is probably another, tidbit of information I would tell a business owner that was starting out, or even somebody that was in the business for a long time, is just, don't be afraid. Have the cojones, so to speak, to pivot. And if you're not doing exactly what you want to do, make those little adjustments. You don't have to spin 180 degrees. Make small, little changes, and then pretty soon you're doing what you want to do, and people are going to be more thankful because you're passionate about what you do.
There's so many people out there who think that most of life is either a right or wrong situation, or a yes or no, when it's not.
Yeah.
There's an infinite number of possibilities in every single situation. Some are good, some might not be so good, but you got to put it out there and see. And I think it's great to go out there and to put some of it out there and see how it goes, and to test things, right? To
Absolutely.
collect the data on it, and then develop the plan and dive in further. But you gotta live the life. You gotta gain the experience. You can't
Absolutely, 100%.
A lot of people get stuck inside the theory of things.
Yeah.
Or somebody online said this is the right way to do this, and that's the only way.
Right.
And it's crap.
100%.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great. Tenacity.
Yep.
Now, moving forward, because you retired from MMA, what is success to you? Like, when will you be successful, or when will you be successful?
I feel successful now, as far as, being able to say, hey, I've had a gym in Albuquerque for 21 years. There's a lot of gyms that open up and close within 6 months or a year. I mean, you guys have all kind of like seen that around. I think that alone is successful for me. But also now at this point, having a business that I love, having a business I can grow, being able to provide for my little girl, and my wife, and being able to build the next generation of, instructors, and pursuing, doing stunts in film and TV, which again is so much fun. That's something that I'm so blessed to be able to do, on top of do what I do. And it is extremely lucrative, so, for me, success is being able to pursue those things, and also just having the time and the flexibility to be a good dad and a good husband, not working 7 days a week, not having to be at my business every single day and trust that it's going to be okay, which again, people always, say, oh, you're on your business, it must be so amazing. It's a lot of work. It's a ton of work. It's literally like having two homes. It's like having, and the people that work for you or work around you, they're like your family members. So you have all these, it's like doubling all your responsibilities as far as, having two homes that you're going to kind of essentially take care of. Or if you have multiple locations, it's even more than that. And then making sure you have those relationships with your clients, having those relationships with your employees and your staff. But I mean, for me, it's just being able to continue to be able to do what I love to do, and have the freedom to be able to go on a family vacation, go to my daughter's swimming lesson, go to my daughter's gymnastic lessons, and just being present, I think is what success looks like for me now.
Great stuff. Great stuff. You listen to your preferences, which it seems like it takes people a long time to do that kind of stuff, right? Like they might ignore their family or their children, again, because somebody else said that they should do something else, or that they can't be successful while still going to swim lessons.
Right.
Like, hey, you can't have a thriving business if you go to your doctor.
It's crap. No, it really is. I mean, it's just priorities and being able to be flexible.
What's one of your favorite memories of the last 20 years, locally, and then wherever else you want to take it?
I think for me, one of the highlights in my career as a professional coach and instructor was, when I was there for Cowboy Cerrone's retirement fight, and taking off the gloves in the UFC cage for his last fight. And being a part of that at the end of his journey, at that part of his life and mine, and then also being at one of his favorite fights ever, which was when we fought Razor Rob McCullum in the WC before the UFC. So for me as a coach, that was a huge highlight in my life, just being able to be kind of at the two favorite parts of your athlete's career, and being a part of it was something that I can't put into words necessarily, and it's so fulfilling as far as that goes.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Did you ever fight? Or did you ever compete?
I did a lot of competition. So part of being in all these different kinds of martial arts styles over the years, I've had to do all kinds of different competitions, tournaments, everything from like forms competitions to, point fighting to, kind of like the early, fusions that were kind of the early stages of MMA when you could do certain things, but you couldn't do other things. Like, I remember doing a competition before where you could strike, you could throw your opponent, but as soon as they landed, you had about 20 seconds to score a submission or score a couple of strikes, and then you had to stand it back up. And then I remember, doing, stuff where you could, you could throw and take down, and you could submit, but you couldn't hit. So I mean, yes, I've done a lot of, all on the amateur side, a lot of different competitions, whether it was like, full contact stick fighting or, forms competitions or, tournaments where you got to fight, 10 people in one weekend, to get the championship, trophy, but it all kind of, led up to what I was able to kind of pass on to my fighters as I became a professional coach, was just, kind of little tidbits of how not to be nervous, what to expect, and how to cut weight, how to, perform at your best, what not to eat before your competition, but never dove into the professional side of things, when I was doing all that stuff. So it really wasn't an option, back then it was just because you did it because you loved it, there's no money.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
You got a medal or you got a trophy.
These things have changed a bit over the years, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
I've got one more question for you before I ask you that. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or felt that was important for anyone to know, just from advice or fun things to know about you?
I would say just to enjoy what you do, pick something that you're not going to get tired of, and just because it makes good money, do something that you're passionate about. That way it transcends the money. The money will come if you love what you're doing. And don't be afraid to have your own vision of success versus what your parents want you to do, or what your colleagues expect you to do. Don't try and keep up with the Joneses. Do what's going to make you happy. But also pick something that's going to be a worthwhile trade, that's going to actually, be able to support a family. That was one of the things that my father, was always really hard on me about, was just, make sure you make a good living. Make sure, even when I was in school, it was like, make sure you're getting good grades. You're going to have to support a family someday, make sure you're, how you doing at work, make sure you're working hard because you're going to have to support a family someday. So, pick something that you can actually make a living at and love what you do.
It seems like it could be anything, really.
Really can be, man.
Dang. How can we help you? What could you use some help with, and how can
you literally have helped me just by sitting down and talking to me. I mean, I love doing stuff like this. I love, being able to help people and, tell people kind of my successes and also my failures. I mean, I think that's something that's really important. And then just, continue to pass on the referrals, I mean, somebody's interested in doing, Muay Thai or boxing, or, send them to me.
All right. Yeah, we sure will. Whatever way we can help, we absolutely will. Where can people find out more about you?
So everything's under Coach Ray Yee. So it's my website is coachrayyee.com. My Instagram handle is the same. My Facebook handle is the same. And best way to get a hold of me is either, DM me, or there's a little link in my webpage that you can send me a message or text me.
Or show up at the gym and just start helping.
Yeah, show up in the gym. But yeah, but I mean, they can get a hold of me in any of those ways. Sure. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
All right. Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate you taking some time to hang out.
Pleasure, brother.
It's been all my pleasure. So seriously, a really, really fun experience, and I look forward to staying connected.
Yes,
I'm glad Jonathan stepped in to help make this happen. He's definitely the man and a huge piece behind this project. Without him, wouldn't be possible. So
He's a good egg for sure.
yeah, he's a good egg. With a big ego sometimes, but all right, well, cool. We'll wrap it up. This has been episode number 4 of Find Your Success. Thank you for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.